When everything feels heavy and complicated, this full moon in Taurus reminds us to come back to simplicity, to come back to the present, to play, to the senses and the body, to return to what really matters to us. Scorpio season can be intense. We're often moving through so much transformation and change. And this full moon is asking us to come up for some air, to remember why we're doing all of this work anyway, which is to have a life that we enjoy, to bring more pleasure into our lives. It's so interesting because as I've done my own healing work for 15, 16 years and walk other people through their healing, I've noticed how we can get really addicted to the intensity and the pain and the struggle, especially if we have trauma or that's what we've known to be safe, chaos in our lives. I'm looking at all my people who have Scorpio placements or eighth house or hard Pluto contacts. And it's really important for us if we're like that. And even if you don't have those things, trauma can put the body in the state of feeling like safety comes in chaos and it comes in intensity. And so pleasure can almost become a threat to our safety. And then it almost becomes this weird thing where we're doing all this healing and trying to understand our lives, but we're never giving ourselves a chance to actually enjoy what we've discovered and what we've transformed. My invitation is that this full moon becomes that for you. Now let's talk about some dates and some, logical things that we need to just get out of the way so that my mind can kind of go into its own world. But I will say that today, I do want to kind of distill some of this wisdom down and make it simple, like Taurus, because I feel like our minds have been going through a lot and our bodies as well. And generally, I like to go through every aspect of, the chart and just keep going and going. But today, we're going to refine it. So this full moon is happening on November 5th, 2025 at 6:18 a.m. Mountain Standard Time at 13 degrees of Taurus. So if you have anything around 13 degrees of fixed signs, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, you're going to be feeling this the most. I would say between 10 to 16. And for personal planets, that's going to be more impactful for you. This is a culmination of something that was began 6 months ago on April 27th, 2025. And now it's coming to a culmination, it's coming to a fruition. The thing I love about full moons in Taurus is that they generally are very tangible because Taurus is the first earth sign and it's very earthy. And so we generally have something to show for our labor. The fruits of our labor tend to be more tangible here. So wherever you have Taurus, this is going to be happening for you. I'd love to hear down below what was happening for you in that part of your chart in April of 2025 or May of 2025. I'll say for myself, Taurus rules my 10th house of career. And I left my career as a pharmacist 5 months ago. So I'd say that's kind of a thing, right? You can't make this stuff up, Astrology is just too real sometimes. So I'd love to hear down below, like what was going on in your life back then? And how is that coming to a fruition now? Full moons are also a time where the unconscious gets illuminated and we have a lot of realizations. And so it can be a time of release as well. Something is culminating and finishing. We're having realizations and we're being asked to release what no longer is serving us. And we generally get that through some sort of a realization from the unconscious. And the fact that, this full moon is happening with the sun in Scorpio, we've been moving through an intense time and there's been a lot of emotional truths that have been coming up. And it feels like this full moon is a time for us to take the emotional truths, the hard truths, the transformation that we've had to go through, the initiations, and make them into something beautiful. Create something in our lives from that. And to come back to the body to see, what does the body need right now? Our souls have been going through this massive transformation, like we need to grow and we need to grow, but growth for growth's sake is a tumor. It's cancer. So this is an invitation to just land where you are. Reestablish your values, reestablish what truly matters to you. Why are you doing all of this work anyway? So you have a life that you enjoy, a life that feels good to you. The pleasure principle, right? This is Venus. Taurus wants stability, and the moon loves being here, right? The moon is exalted in Taurus because the moon changes signs every 2.5 days, and it is a little bit more unstable, and it lands in a fixed earth sign like Taurus, and it's like, it's like landing in a feather bed, to quote or to reference my Saturn-Neptune video. A feather bed with plushies everywhere, The moon loves being here. Let's look a little bit at the chart and just see what comes up when we look at the chart for this moon here. We've got the sun opposite moon, asking us to take those truths and make something tangible in our lives, to create a life that feels good to us now. It's asking us, Taurus is a sign of creation, is a sign of creativity, of harmony, of value, stability. And as I mentioned, this is exalted here. And then we've got Venus, the ruler, in Libra. So once again, Venus is very happy here as well. So there's a lot of blessings coming through in that way, but it's also opposite Chiron. There's some painful truths that we are facing, and relationships are probably reflecting that to us right now. Maybe we're recognizing something about our values or how we've been showing up in a way that has not allowed for somebody else to be their true selves. Or maybe we're surrounded by people who we feel don't allow us to be our true selves. But whenever I hear that, it always goes back to, well, are we allowing that for them? A lot of painful things being shown to us through relationships, but ultimately it's for our growth, for our emotional healing. Mars and Mercury are also in Sagittarius right now, opposing Uranus. We are wanting to say and do things that may shake the status quo. And I think that is called for, although I will say that Mars is at this Skandanta period that I talked about in my last video, with Mercury moving back and forth through this period. So I'll just say I'm laying low during this full moon. Unexpected awakening moments or conversations or actions that maybe lead to awakening as well. And of course, this moon is also being supported by the nodes. So there's evolution and growth here, even when we slow down enough to just exist in our bodies. What does your body need right now? Have you asked it? This full moon feels like it's our body remembering joy after a long initiation of scorpionic intensity. The instinct to touch, to play, to feel alive. This is a return back to simplicity. Ra in human design often said that in the future, simplicity will be like the best way of living, and you will be the richest person when you have a simple life. And I think that's really true. And I think Taurus reminds us of that. In my last video, I talked about how the mind is racing and the spirit's exhausted. And now the body is the one that wants to speak. And I want to ask, what is your body trying to say to you? And maybe you'll even put your hand on your heart or somewhere on your body, and you might ask, like, what's here right now? The Sabian symbol here is shellfish groping and children playing. And it talks about the concept of being true to the self, or to the principle that each individual must develop his own potential without concern as to what others think or say. The emphasis here is on a relaxed and playful approach to self-realization and personal growth, appreciation for individual difference and the beauty of diversity. Now, let's talk a little bit about the human design. Now, if you're not familiar with human design, it's a synthesis of multiple systems, including astrology. And when I talk about the gates here, I'm talking about 64 gates that break up the zodiac. So it's just little portions of the zodiac signs that gives us a little bit more specificity when it comes to human design. So specifically, this one, oops, actually, let's do this. Specifically, this one falls into gate 2, which is the direction of the self in human design. And this is a very feminine gate. By the way, if you don't have your human design chart, you can get it on my website if you're curious about this system. Now, there's an offshoot of human design called Gene Keys, and the Gene Keys shows us the shadows of this gate. And so the shadow of Gene Key 2 here is dislocation, and the gift here is orientation. And it was funny because as I was making this video or thinking about what I wanted to say, I was like, I really feel like I want to distill the messaging down here and not go into depth about everything. And the first thing I read about Gene Key 2 from Richard Rudd, he says, the second gene key and the journey it represents contain a beautifully simple distillation of cosmic wisdom. I was like, oh, okay, so that's what I was channeling. But he goes on to say that this shadow implies both the sense of being lost in time and space and of dismemberment. However, when you feel lonely, cut off, afraid, or dejected, you have never actually lost your way. It just feels that way. The fear that we are going in a bad direction comes from the second shadow. It is because we see ourselves separate from nature that we feel this great collective fear. Our perception dislocates us from the truth. Now, the gift here of orientation is that when you recognize that you can never be lost, that everything is happening in perfect timing, you are reoriented to nature's pace. A lot of times with gate 2, it's like this is called the gate of direction of the self, and we're trying to push our own desires and our lives to go a certain way. And that's not really fun, is it? There's not a lot of play in that, like the Sabian symbol said. One of the shadows of Taurus and Scorpio is control. And sometimes even when we're in pain, we don't want things to change. So play brings in a whole nother dimension here. I want to just pull a tarot card here for our distillation of cosmic wisdom. How do we get reoriented to life? And, for this full moon, when you're thinking about what you're releasing, I'd also think it'd be a really cool idea to write down a list of your values and just do a check of like, how much in your life are those values coming into play in your day to day? This might look like having a set of values and then maybe just writing down what you do for a couple of days and matching those two together. Or maybe having a list of like what matters to you and then just thinking about like, how much am I living that day to day? And is it as much as I'd like to be? How do we return to what really matters to us? And I just got the sun. This is success. This is expression. This is joy. Shining. Happiness. Allowing ourselves to feel happy. Allowing ourselves to write down maybe the things that we do have that are easy and letting that be okay. Wow. What so much yellow in these cards. So much joy, so much red, orange. A return to childlike innocence. The Sabian symbol. Children playing. Six of Cups. Childhood. Wow. Oh, I just got chills. A return to play. A return to a childlike nature, what we so often lose as we become adults and we get so serious, like life is, we got to achieve and we got to do these things. And it's like, whoa, whoa. mm, I think that's a perfect place to end. I'd love to hear down in the comments below what's arising for you around this part of your chart. What is your body saying? How can you have a return to innocence, to childlike play? I just realized, like, there's a child here too. There's so much imagery about just enjoying life, allowing pleasure. Ooh, I love this. If you guys want to stay in contact with me, obviously please like and subscribe. That helps my channel a lot and it helps us stay connected. You can also subscribe to my mailing list and get some goodies there and stay in touch. Also my Substack. Oh, all the places. And I'm thinking of new places as well. That'll be coming soon. Make sure you subscribe to my mailing list because I'll be the first to know. And just a reminder that, yes, simplicity is the new revolution. When we return to what truly matters, we realize how little it is that we actually need to feel happy and joyful in life. And that in itself is revolutionary. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.